this video, I'm going to show you how I made my Miku Append cosplay based on the TDA Miku Append model from Miku Miku Dance. So let's get started. I hope you enjoy. Okay, so I'm starting on my Miku cosplay, the Append Miku, and currently I'm working on the thigh pieces, or the leggings. So I have a graph like a diagram of what I'm going to do, and this is basically the outline of the whole outfit. So I have to figure out how to cut this part out and also make it proportional. And while I was trying to measure proportions, I was like, okay, so to make the length proportional to the character, I measured her torso and then used that as a reference point for her leg, but I found out that her legs are twice as long as they should be anatomically, which makes sense because she's basically an anime style character. So instead of doing that, I made a proportional to the leg itself so that it would look like how it looks here on me rather than being proportional to her entire body. So it's about not quite halfway, but a little less. So I took that into account and measured that, and then I put on the leggings and I chalked out the area, and when they're stretched out they form more of that shape. The only problem I ran into was this part that comes up towards the pelvic area has a pretty steep incline, as you can see in the diagram, but on me it was like, to get this right shape, which is more important to me than this part, I didn't want to pull this any lower because my knee is like right here, and that's already a little more than like halfway, more or less. So I wanted to keep it as accurate as possible but comfortable and fitted on me. So I'm going to cut this out and then mirror it on the other side and do the back. Cut it out and it fits exactly how I wanted it to. As I was cutting out, I thought maybe I should do a little more area on the back, because the back of my thighs is inevitably bigger than the front of my thighs, because the front of my thighs end up kind of pushing forward a little bit, kind of like a triangle shape, if that makes sense, and the back of my thighs is rounder and flatter, so there's more surface area to cover. So I ended up cutting out a little thicker, so this is the front and this is the back, and it actually ended up working great, and it looks the same on the front as it does on the back, so that's perfect. Make sure when you're cutting out you leave some seam allowance. I have about 1 inch of seam allowance, which is perfect, and then this right here is the top of the elastic. I don't know if I'm going to need it, but in case it like stretched out, I cut a little, or I left a little on it. So now I'm going to try and mirror it on the other side. What I'm going to try to do is re-chalk the areas I had here and then pop it onto the other side, or flip it over and hit it, and see if that transfers and works. It worked! So now I'm going to cut it out, and make sure if you do this method that you redraw the line over the one that you transferred and draw another seam allowance, and then go ahead and cut it out. 2 even leg pieces. What I'm going to do is go in with a smaller pair of scissors, and cut little notches in here, because when you sew it and you reach these corners, it's going to be more difficult to get into that tight corner. So by cutting a little notch here, you can sew this to that side and that to that side. This is stretchy, and I don't have a sewing machine with very many settings, so I'm going to try to do the best I can to sew carefully. But there are some settings that I can use to allow it to stretch still, but it might be a little minor. They do fit really well without having to stretch a ton, so I think I'll be okay. Some leftover pieces. I'm going to keep them because there's a part above the gloves that I need more material for, and the gloves don't have enough material, and it's pretty much exactly the same. So I'm going to reuse this. Anytime you're working on a cosplay that is fairly uniform, especially for Vocaloid characters, if you have scrap materials, please keep them, because there's a big possibility that you'll need them or need to use them over again. So I just set up my sewing machine, and I needed to do a little research to remember how to do a stretch stitch with the seam and all that good stuff. So I looked up some tutorials and found what I was looking for, and I pulled out my manual, and basically we're all set to go. Anytime you're getting ready to sew something for cosplay, especially if you've bought a special material online and like you're really anticipating sewing it, take the time to figure out what you need to do before you start working. It can be really exciting and like you'll feel the need to just jump into things, but just be careful because you don't want to accidentally mess up what you want to do. And even if you do mess up, just know that like cosplay is not really a competition or a race to finish as fast as you can. It's really about the quality and time that you put into it and that you enjoy doing it. So make sure you keep that as a part of your crafting. So I had quite a bit of trouble with sewing the glove and just figuring it out. Or not the glove, but the pant legs. But obviously they're finally finished. It has a nice corner. This one is not as sharp as the other one, but it looks pretty even when I put them on. I'm going to be attaching the top parts to the leotard probably, and so I just left the extra space up there. But for the most part, they're done. I moved on to the gloves, and I wanted to try test sewing one and all that stuff. So this is what the glove looks like originally. It's kind of the same material and all that good stuff. And on the figure and in the what's it called? The drawing I made and saw, it's more like the glove extends only to the middle finger and it covers the arm and the top of the wrist. Yeah, so it looks kind of funny now, but the seam line came out really clean. It looks really good. I machine sewed the top part and it's super straight. It's really nice. And then for this part, I hand sewed the edge and tucked it in. And same with the wrist piece, I hand sewed that. And I also hemmed the left side, I think, because when I put on the glove originally, like as you can see here, there's no wrists to it, so it looks really long. It almost looks like a kitchen glove in a way. So I took that in, so you can see comparing the two that this one's just straight and this one curves in, and it looks really good. I think I did a pretty good job on it. Although it took a long time and it was kind of exhausting. I think we're ready to move on to the next one. But I also got some stuff from Joann's to do some of the coloring and stuff. So I'm going to go grab the bag and show you what I got. Because I had most of what I already needed. A good idea is whenever you're starting a cosplay project, see what you have around the house and look at your design and see what you can make. Based off of what you have instead of going out and buying something new every time. But I did get some things that I needed. So I'm going to use fabric paint. There's some gold detailing on the left and right side of the leotard, and although it's the only gold detail in the entire costume, it's pretty minor, but I think it adds a nice touch. So I got some fabric paint for it. My last project, Samurai Girl, I used acrylic paint. And although I thought that the acrylic paint I was using had more of a, what's it called? Plasticky basing, like a latex base, it was cheaper, so it ended up cracking. So every time I wear the costume, sometimes I have to repaint it. So I'm going to stick with, fabric paint for now. And this will work fine on the elastics. It won't, the elastic fabric, it won't soak through or anything. I got a really nice, pretty turquoise color that I'm going to use as a base coat on any of the pieces on the costume that do not glow. I'm going to be using LEDs and hooking up LEDs to a majority of the costume, but the parts that I want to wash and rewear, I'm going to make little pieces for. So I'm going to use this, and then I'm going to use some cellophane to wrap over it to kind of give the illusion that it's lit up. And the good thing about this is that this is iridescent and it's clear, so any color it's on top of it will kind of adapt to. And the reason why I got a big roll is because it was only $4, and I plan to use it for Land of the Lustrous cosplay. I got a foam brush, which is really cheap. You can get them for like 69 cents. And as long as you wash them and kind of take care of them, you can reuse them quite often. There's a lot of silver detailing on the, or not silver, but like light colored detailing on the wrists and, not wrist, the elbow parts and the knees on the black parts of the costume. So I got some silver shimmer color spray that will hopefully be opaque enough to cover the costume but provide a good airbrushed effect. I'm hoping, it says that it takes several coats to make it opaque, so in a way that's good because I don't want it to be too dark, too saturated too fast. So I can build up the color in the place it needs and then so forth. The reason I got the metallic silver, or like the shimmery silver, is because I assume that the colors are matte and I want the texture and the shine of the cosplay and these pieces to remain shiny. So I stuck with a shimmery spray paint. This was, I think, $6 or $7. I don't know if the price is on here. I don't think so. And then I just got some regular craft foam. There's some pieces on top of the gloves that kind of stick out and they need to be interfaced, but I don't want to use like actual interfacing. I want something thicker, so I'm going to just use craft foam and then use the scrap pieces I had to cover them. So those will come in handy. But for now, I think I'm going to probably put together the rest of the glove, and I'll film a little bit of how I did that, and then sew that, and then I think I might be done for today and probably plan for tomorrow or whatever. But yeah, a lot of progress today, which is good, because I needed to start this cosplay soon with what I had, so that's good.